Okay, so today we're going to be looking at trig some more. And what we're going to focus on first is we're going to learn how to solve for a missing angle when you know the trig ratio. And then after that, we're going to look at the reciprocal trig functions. So our first example says to find the angle in degrees for each, and we're given the equation sine theta is equal to 0.6561. Now that little circle with the line through it, that is the Greek letter theta, and theta is just a variable. It's sometimes in math we'll use Greek letters to represent angles instead of just ABC or XYZ, that kind of thing. So don't let that scare you. So to get theta by itself, we need to move sine to the other side. So to do that, we're going to take the inverse sine. So theta is equal to the inverse sine of 0.6561. Now, notice that it's asking for our angle in degrees, so that gives us our hint that on our calculator, we need to make sure we're in degree mode. So go ahead and pull out your calculator. And the inverse sine function is there in blue on the sine key. So if I hit second sine, then that gives me my sine to the -1. That -1 symbol is your inverse symbol. So that's how you know you have the inverse. And let's check out our mode. I go to mode, I'm still in radians from yesterday. So I need to change that to degree and then quit. And now I can go over here and type in the 0.6561, hit enter, and it tells me my answer looks like about 41 degrees. So theta is about 41 degrees. Okay, I'm going to have you all try this one. So if you want to pause the video for a second, after you write down cosine theta is equal to 0.4226. Okay, then we can compare answers here in just a minute. Okay, do you end up with 65 degrees? Okay, sounds good. Now on C, we're going to change things a little bit. Instead of finding our answer in degree form, we want to find the answer in radian form. And we have tangent of theta is equal to 2.825. So same idea, to get theta by itself, we move tangent over so it becomes inverse tangent. Okay. But when we go to our calculator, this time we're going to need to change our mode from degrees to radians. I type in second tangent. The number was 2.825. And there's my answer, about 1.23 radians. So just pay attention to your math lab and make sure you know whether it's asking you to put your answer in radian form or degree form. Now, we talked yesterday about our trig ratios: sine, cosine, and tangent. Okay. We know that if we want to find sine, we're going to take the opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Okay. Now there are 3 more trig functions that you probably did not talk about in geometry, and that's what we're going to focus on here today. Okay, the next 3 are what we call reciprocal functions because they're reciprocals of sine, cosine, and tangent. So our first one is abbreviated CSC. Okay, that stands for cosecant. And cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So that just means that if sine is opposite over hypotenuse, then cosecant would be hypotenuse over opposite. Because remember, reciprocal just means that you want to flip the fraction. Okay, the reciprocal of cosine is called secant, and we abbreviate that SEC. So if cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, then secant is going to be hypotenuse over adjacent. And then the last one, tangent. The reciprocal of tangent is cotangent. We abbreviate that COT. And so if tangent is opposite over adjacent, cotangent will be adjacent over opposite. Okay, so let's look at an example. Use finding cosecant, secant, and cotangent. Okay, one of the examples that we talked about yesterday had a triangle. And it was a right triangle. And for triangle ABC, we knew that, oops, I think I have those marked wrong. Yeah, that was A and that's B. Okay, we know side AB is 15.81, side AC is 15, and side BC is 5. So this was our second example that we looked at yesterday. Now yesterday we found the sine, cosine, and tangent of A, and then we found the sine, cosine, and tangent of B. Today what we're going to do is find some of those reciprocal identities, and we're going to round those to the nearest 10,000th. So for this one, we want to find each. And for A, we're asked to find the cosecant of A. Well, cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. And so if sine is opposite over hypotenuse, then cosecant is going to be hypotenuse over opposite. So that's going to be 15.81 divided by 5. And when you put that in your calculator, you end up with 3.162. Okay, then for B, we find the secant of A. The secant of A is hypotenuse over adjacent, because that's the reciprocal of cosine. So the hypotenuse is 15.81 and the adjacent side is 15. Put that in your calculator and divide that out. We're rounding to the nearest 10,000th, so that's 3 places. So 1.054. I think I told you all wrong. We're rounding to the nearest 10,000th. So that would be 4 places, wouldn't it? Okay, so just make sure you pay attention on Math Lab as far as how far they want you to round. Okay, cotangent of A is adjacent over opposite. So my adjacent side for A would be 15. The opposite side is 5. So 15 over 5 gives me 3. Okay, now we're going to find those three for angle B. So cosecant of B, this time we're going from this angle. So we have hypotenuse again, which is still 15.81. But over the opposite, this time my opposite is 15. Then for secant of B, our hypotenuse is still 15.81, but this time when I divide by adjacent, my adjacent will be the 5. And then finally, the cotangent of B, this time is going to be 5 over 15 because we have adjacent over opposite, and so that's going to be about 0.333, that is. Okay, so just remember those reciprocal identities. You just take the formula for sine, cosine, and tangent and flip it. So if you can remember SOHCAHTOA for the formulas for sine, cosine, and tangent, you just need to remember that the reciprocal of sine is cosecant, cosine goes with secant, and tangent goes with cotangent. All right, then for our last example, we're going to look at some problems similar to what we saw in the first example, but this time we're going to have some reciprocal identities. So we want to find the angle in degrees or radians. And for A, we're looking at cosecant theta is equal to 1.439, and we want our angle in degrees. Now, cosecant is the reciprocal of which function? Okay. So when I put this in my calculator, since cosecant's the reciprocal of sine, then I can also think of this equation as the sine of theta is equal to 1 over 1.439. And so what I put in my calculator is going to be the inverse sine of 1 over 1.439. Okay. Now, the reason I'm doing that, if you look at your calculator, okay, I have a sine, a cosine, and a tangent button, okay, but I don't have those reciprocal functions. So first of all, change your mode. We wanted this answer in degrees, so change back to degree. And then we're finding cosecant, so the reciprocal of that sine. So if I hit second sine, then I just need to take the reciprocal of 1.439. So that's 1 divided by 1.439. And you can write that as a fraction, or you can put it with the divided by key. Either way should give you the same answer. And so you end up with 44 degrees. So we're going to say this is about 44 degrees. Okay, then on this next one, we're going to say cotangent theta is equal to 0.412, and this time we want our answer in radians. Okay, so ask yourself, what function is cotangent the reciprocal of? Okay, so I need to rewrite my equation in terms of that other function. So cotangent goes with tangent. And so since I took the reciprocal of this side, I take the reciprocal of this side. So that's going to be 1 over 0.412. So now when I put it in my calculator to find theta, I do the inverse tangent. And that's what I'll type into my calculator. Now, once again, we want our answer in radians, so go back and change to radian mode. And then you're going to type in second tangent. And I'll show you here. I'm going to use the fraction button this time, but it shouldn't matter. You can do it like that, or like I did the inverse sine one right above it, and it'll give you the same thing. What was our number again? 0.412. There we go. Okay, and you end up with 1.18. So that should get you in good shape on your next math lab. Once again, you're just going to need to pay attention to how far it asks you to round, and then also remember to switch your calculator mode back and forth. If you do not have a calculator, remember to look at that assignment sheet I sent you out on Remind. I have a link to one there. Have a great day.